This is Gemara Megillah Daf Chav. All the learning for this month, the month of Tevis, has been generously sponsored by a close friend of the Daf, L'Zecher Nishmas, his father, Bar Leib, and Rav Yaakov Zatzal. To learn the entire Chabura, the incredible power of Talmud Torah, like we learned the other day. Talmud Torah, even greater than Atzal's Nefasha. It should be an incredible limud. It should be an incredible schos aliyas neshama for Leib ben Rav Yaakov, as well as learning shvius schos shudov yisrael chaim devar shemir bras yitz zikul shanam mitzvah shanam makil merch v'zav shem ben chaya shalom ben levi zahava, as well as schos for shlema of shmol yus ben aveda ben avega chaim zara shalom simon yitzat service kanadi the president chaysara Yosef Yov ben Mendel as first shalei shalom as nami v'shavi v'shelchan shmo ben til dinu chaim rizom v'chai basmina dinu v'shen Mendel sviv v'yigdor v'chel svara Naftali Ben Michal Esther Amr Ben Yaakov B'Yisai Shar Chayli Yisrael. We're holding at the bottom, of your Testament base, and we're trying to figure out who is the Tana of the Mishnah that says a Cheresh, a deaf mute, is not allowed to read the Megillah. And the confusion began, if you see the Mishnah in front of you, the Mishnah said a Cheresh Sheitav Katan cannot read the Megillah, whereas Rav Yehuda says a Katan is allowed to read the Megillah. So yesterday, one of the suggestions that we had, about 6 lines into the Gemara, was that perhaps the din of the Mishnah is Rav Yehuda, as you see highlighted in front of you, and it's only Lechatz Chila that a Cheresh is not allowed to, but B'diavad, if they did it, it's going to work. So on that point, the Gemara picks up from today. And now we're holding 8 lines to the bottom of your Testament base. Ask the Gemara, how can you say that the Mishnah is Rav Yehuda? And if the Mishnah is Rav Yehuda, what is the din of the Mishnah of a Cheresh? To be Eved, that the Mishnah is teaching us, like we saw up top, that it's a din that B'diavad is going to work, that only Lechatz Chila a Cheresh is not allowed to. That when the Mishnah says Chutz mi Sheresh Sheitav Katan, the Chutz mi Cheresh was a din Lechatz Chila, but B'diavad it's going to work. Ask the Gemara, how can you say that? Elha Ditani Rav Yehuda Breder Shimon Pazi. We have a brayso, and the outline of the Gemara is going to be right now. We're going to have multiple braysos, and we're going to try to see whose opinion do these braysos fit. Based on what we said yesterday, the Rav Yehuda is of the opinion that B'diavad a Cheresh could read, and as we'll see, we're going to have to fit it with Rav Yosef's opinion as well. So says the Gemara, this opinion of Yehuda, Rav Shimon Rav Yehuda Berei Rav Shimon Bazi Cheresh HaMedaber Ve'ino Yishmeya Tayrim Lechatchila. With regard to the din of Truma, are you allowed to think of Truma? Says the Gemara, Cheresh that can speak but can't hear his words is allowed to think of Truma, but even Lechatchila. Says the Gemara, we have a problem, money. Rav Yehuda Diavin Lechatchila Lai. According to the opinion of Rav Yehuda you just explained, B'diavad it works. Lechatchila you're not allowed to, but the brayso of Rav Yehuda Berei Rav Shimon Bazi says that Lechatchila you could take off Truma. And if it's going to Rav Yosef, you learn yes. Rav Yosef says it's usher entirely. It certainly does not work. Even B'diavad. Ve'elamai, says the Gemara, you're right. So now let's go back to the drawing block. Elamai, we're going to reinterpret the opinion of Rav Yehuda. Ve'elamai, Rav Yehuda, what does he hold? Afilu lechatchila. We're now flopping the other way. Rav Yehuda holds that even lechatchila, you don't have to hear that which you are saying. Even lechatchila, if you read the Megillah without hearing it, it's going to be kosher. But says the Gemara, and who's going to be the Mishnah? The Mishnah is going to have the opinion of Rav Yosef. But says the Gemara, now we have a different brayso. Elah Tanya, that which we learned in a brayso. Lo yivarich adam berachas hamazon believe even berach yatsa. Don't bench berachas hamazon in your heart. You have to say and articulate the words. But if you did, it's okay. Mani. Again, who's this opinion now? Lo Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef, 2 lines to the bottom. Again, why? Rav Yehuda, according to the new way we're learning Rav Yehuda, I feel lechatchila, to work even lechatchila, you're allowed to not hear the words. Rav Yosef, I feel b'diavad, nami loy. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place trying to figure out who is the opinion of the Mishnah, and by extension, what is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So it says the Gemara on the top of today's daf, Adabel Chafa Meralef Leilam Rav Yehuda Iva, afilu lechatchila. Really, we're going to opinion of Rav Yehuda when the Mishnah's brayso said that you're allowed to separate the Truma and you don't have to hear the words. That is the opinion of Rav Yehuda. V'loi kasha. But don't ask That how do we interpret the price on the bottom that said by benching? It doesn't work. Hadidei Rabbe. One is the opinion of Rav Yehuda himself. He himself holds. Lechatchila, you don't have to hear the words. Rabbe. One is the Rebbe of Rabbi Yehuda. The Tani Rav Yehuda, I remember Shem Rav Elazar ben Azariah quoting his Rebbe. You have to hear the words, and this is the raya that only lechatchila you have to hear the words. But b'diavad, if you didn't hear the words, it's going to be okay. And Rashi speaks out that this is a raya that it's only lechatchila you should hear it. But b'diavad, if you didn't, it's going to be okay. So now we have this in between opinion. This middle opinion is who is this opinion that's teaching us that b'diavad, if you did it, it's going to work. It's the Rebbe of Rabbi Yehuda, Rav Elazar ben Azariah. Now, the Brisa continues. Rameir Oimer, Ashar Noichim Yitzavcha Yoim Al Levavecha. He goes to different basik. Achar Kavanis Alev goes 100% by your heart, even if you didn't hear anything. Hey Neina Advarim. And that's the opinion of Rameir. So we're answering that Rav Yehuda is of the opinion it has to be that even lechatchila you're allowed to do it, whereas Rebbe is of the opinion, this in-between opinion that says is the din b'diavad. Ask the Gemara 1 second. Now that you just quoted me the opinion of Rameir, what did Rameir say? Achar kavanas halev, everything goes by your heart, nothing to do with your mouth and your ears. Maybe I'll tell you really Rav Yehuda holds like his Rebbe. We don't have to make that split. And Rav Yehuda could hold it's only good b'diavad. And that which we learned of Yehuda Rishayim Shimon Bazi that says even lachatchila you're allowed to do it. Rameir that's Rameir that achar kavanas alev inin advarim that even lachatchila you don't have to hear the words. An absolutely fascinating Gemara. Says the Gemara 10 lines down, Chafam and Aleph, the two dots, Rav Yehuda Machshir B'Katan, Rav Yehuda allows a Katan to read the Megillah. Says the Gemara, Rav Yehuda Katan, I was a Katan, V'karisi l'mayla, mi Rabbi Tarfon, and I read the Megillah as a Katan in front of Rav Tarfon, who's the king in Belud and the elders in Lud. Amrulai, they said to Rav Yehuda, and just to put into perspective, Rav Yehuda now is Gadol Hadar, he's Rav Yehuda, like Rav Chaim Kanievsky saying, by the way, when I was a kid, I read the Megillah in front of Eliyash. And you know what they respond to Rav Chaim? Know what they respond to Rav Yehuda? Ein mevi and rayam in a katan. It's true, you're now the gadol hadar, but you're giving aids, and now what you did was a katan, and therefore there is no raya. Tanya, similarly, Amar Rebbe katan easy agrees to the malam Rav Yehuda. Ran from Rav Yehuda. Amar lo ein mevi and rayam in hamatir. Can't bring a raya from you, Rav Yehuda, because you're the one that holds it's good. Ask the Gemara 1 second. V'leim mevi and rayam in a katan. Why are you saying you only can't bring a raya because you're the opinion that holds it's okay? You was a katan. Answers the Gemara. Chad va'id kamerle. Chad number 1 katan isa, and you can't bring a raya because you're a katan. V'oi number 2 afilu gadlis. Even if you were a gadol, it's still no raya. Ein mevi and raya min hamatir. Says the Mishnah. Chaf Amid Aleph. In Kairines Megillah, you're not allowed to read the Megillah. V'loi Mal, you're not allowed to do a bris milah. V'loi Tayvli, you're not allowed to go to the mikvah. V'loi Mazid, you're not allowed to do the hazah of the mechatas, the sprinkling. V'chein shemeres yom keneged yom, someone who's waiting the day to become tar. V'loi Titzel can't go to the mikvah. Shenda Neitz Hachama. The day begins with Neitz Hachama, sunrise. However, concludes the Mishnah, B'kulan she'asa mishal amara shachar kosher. But if you did it from Aleisa Shachar, when the first rays of dawn appeared, it's going to work. So when does the day begin? You read the Megillah, you do the bris milah, you go to the mikvah. It's all at Neitz Hachama. Says the Gemara, ask the Gemara, where do you know this from? Minalan, Ta'amar Krav, Hayomim Ma'ilin Iskar V'nasim, B'yoim B'layla Lai. We see by Megillah, B'yomim during the day. Ask the Gemara, Levi Tavitiyavta Rav Yeshua ben Levi, this is a kasha of Rav Yeshua ben Levi. Ta'amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi, Chaydan L'kros Megillah B'layla V'shleitz B'yoim. You got to read the Megillah at night and by day. But here we're reading, bringing a raya only regarding the daytime. That's the Gemara. That's not a kasha. Kikatani at yom. We're just referring to the daytime reading the Megillah. It has to be by day and not at night. And there, we continue the Gemara about 15 lines to the bottom. The two dots, you can't do bris milah only until nates. The chsev b'yom hashmini yimel has to be by yom. V'loi tayvlim v'lamazin v'chlu the chsev he's adar al tamei. By yom hashvi again on the 7th day is k'shtvila azaya. V'chein shemeres yom keneged yom l'titel ha'shenadin zechama. They can't go to the mikvah until Neitzachama. Ask the Gemara 1 second. The Mishnah is redundant. Pshita. The Mishnah began and said that anyone who's going to the mikvah of loy toiv lein until Neitzachama. Then it said again, and someone who shemeres yom keneged yom, someone who's tummy and he's waiting, also has to go after Neitzachama. It's the same din. It's pashit. Answers the Gemara. Itzrich. No, we need both cases. Sal because I would have thought to have a kiriyah rishon and shel zav. Maybe says the Gemara, maybe it would be comparable to the first time a Zav sees that discharge. For Rishayna Shal Zav, it's Kishal Balkari. Where do we learn that from? From a Balkari. Again, a Zav is a discharge. It's not necessarily semen, it's more of a disease. And Balkari is a regular seminal discharge. So we're learning the Zav from Balkari. We see the Pasuk puts the two of them together. And now at the end of this, we have Balkari equated to Zav. What do we learn? 5 lines from the bottom. Ma Balkari Tevel Bayoim, Hanami Litzel Bayoim. It has to tefillah, it has to be by day. So even though we had a havamina that perhaps it should be like the first re'iyah, which is at night, no, the tefillah has to be by day. Ask the Gemara 1 second. What are you talking about? But by the daytime, you cannot go to the mikvah. When it comes to the one who's waiting for the clean days, the woman, she cannot go to the mikvah. The pasuk says, "Kol yemei zayva kimishkav nidasa." That all the days of her zav are like the days of her time of nida. And what do we learn out from there? That yeh should be for her, but laila mias liavid, she has to go at night. Why? Mixas shimur, she has to wait part of that night. V'titval. When it comes to a need, do we know when does it need to go to the mikvah? In the night time. So says the Gemara 1 second. The zav is equated to the nida, and just like the nida has to wait part of the night and go to the mikvah, the zav should have to be the same. So Kamash Malan comes along our Mishnah and says, Kivan the Bayisfira, since this is concept of Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom, since the zav has to count this day, that's the additional chiddush. That's why the Mishnah speaks out one case of Tvila, another case of Shemeres Yom Keneged Yom. As we turn over to Amud Beis, that's Fira b'yamamahi, that counting is by the day, and that's the reason why he has to go to the day, and that's the reason why the Mishnah has 2 different cases. Says the Gemara, Chaf Amud Beis, the top line. If you do any of these things that are lois, it works. Immediately, where do we know this? Amar Rava Damar Krav Ikra Likim La'ar Yoim, and Hashem called to the daytime day. Lemeir uba karayim, and I'm sure many people remember this. This is Daf Beis Amud Beis in Brachas, the first Daf in all of Shas. Says the Gemara that Hashem called the day day. What does that mean? Lemeir uba, as it's getting light, He called the day. Elamayata says the Gemara 1 second. Ulachayshach karalayla. Are you going to tell me lamachshich uba karalayla? Are you going to tell me that as it's getting dark, He calls it nighttime? Hakay malan that itzchavim lav leilu. But it can't be. It's not at shkia as it's getting dark. It's only at Tisa Kechavim when the stars come out. Elo Amar. Rav Zera mehalchas. The Gemara says, you're right. This can't be the source. Rather, what is the source? Meaning, we thought that the source was the Ar Yoim, that the daytime is when it gets light. The daytime is from Alois B'diavad, it's going to work. But I asked the Gemara, if that's true, then it would sound like the nighttime is from Shkia, and that's not true. You need Teisek Echavim, you need the stars. Answers the Gemara, El Rav Zera mehalcha, another source. V'anachdu oisim b'malacha chitzim machzikim b'ravachim me'alois ha'shachar at Teisek Echavim. So referring to the building of the Beis HaMikdash, they would work, and it would be from the first rays of dawn all the way until the stars come out. And the Psukim say further, and it was a night for the watching, and at the daytime they worked. What's the second pasuk? Perhaps you're going to suggest maybe you're going to say, really, when those first rays of dawn, that's not really day. But so what did that first pasuk mean? The first pasuk said, Alois HaShachar. So how can you tell me it doesn't mean day? Says Gemara, you know why? Perhaps, similarly, Shimsha Laila. Maybe similarly, and then when the sun is setting, it is night. But where do we see that in the pasuk? What's it referring to? Ve'enu mikadmi u'machashi. And maybe they just came early to work in the Beis HaMikdash and they stayed late. But maybe you can't bring a raya from this pasuk. What is the definition of day and night? So Tashema, the second pasuk, mishmar ve'yom l'melacha, and that's what teaches us the raya that the night is to watch and the day is to work, and that's going to be from when? From Alois HaShachar until And that is the right that b'diavad, like we saw in the Mishnah, all these practices, b'diavad, if you differ malais, it's going to be okay. Says the Mishnah on Chavam Abayis, Kol Hayom Kasher Likros HaMegillah, you read the Megillah the entire day, and similarly, what are other things you could do the whole day? Ulekriyas Halel, Ultkiya Shayfer, Ultilas Lulav, Ultfilas Musafin, Ulmusafin, Ulevidoy Aparim, when it comes to feeding on the cows, Ulevidoy Meiser, Vidoy Meiser, Ulevidoy Yom Kippurim, Lismicha to lean on the animal, L'shchita to shech the animal, T'nufa to wave the animal, Agosha to bring the carbon, L'kmitza to do the kmitza in the flour, L'akdara to burn the limbs, Ulemika that you shech the bird with your finger, L'kabbalah to catch the blood, L'azayah to sprinkle the blood, Ushkiya Saita, when it comes to the Saita, given the saita to drink, in the case of Agla Arufa, to break the neck of the donkey, the Meser comes star, call, that's all these items are the entire day. And now the Mishnah concludes, just like we just listed a whole list of things that are kosher the whole day, there are certain practices that are kosher the whole night. Coming the Aimer, burning the fats and the limbs. This is the rule, says the Mishnah. And of course, no one should disregard the concept of Zirizim Aktim in the mitzvah. Of course, you're not supposed to wait until the last moment, but we're proving over here that these entities in the Mishnah, whether it's Vidu, whether it's Meiser, whether it's Kiddush Shefer, whether it's Tilas Lulav, whether there's Hallel, you have the entire day to read it. Says the Gemara, sorry about that, please flip. Says the Gemara on Chaf Amid Beis. Minolan, from where do we know that the daytime is when you read the Megillah? The Amar Kra, it says in the Pasuk Yomim Me'eleh, referring to the Megillah, Nizkarim V'nasim. Nizkarim V'nasim. So we see that the Megillah has to be, when does it read? V'yomim Me'eleh, on these days. L'kriyas HaHallel, where do we see the Hallel has to be by day? And of course, this mimics a Gemara we saw a few days ago. Rabbi Yossi Amar, Zayom Asa Hashem. And if just to remind us all, these were Gemaras a few days ago that discussed the Megillah being read Keseder in order and not Lamafreya. We brought this Raya Mizach Shemesh and Mavoy, the sun sets in order, and Zayom Asa Hashem. Similarly, says the Gemara, Latilas Lulav is by day, Dechsev Lekach L'cham Yom Arishon, Ki Hashevet Dechsev Yom Kura Yelachem, L'musav Dechsev Dvar Yom B'Yom B'Yotfil L'musafin, L'tfilas HaMusafin is Ki Musafin Shavi, is like the Karma Musaf, Shavi Rabbanan, Levide Parim, the Olav Kapara, Kaparim Yom Kippurim. When it comes to Vidi, we learn from Yom Kippur. The Tanya, Gabi Yom Kippurim V'chibir B'adei B'adei Sai, B'Kapara Sadvarim HaKos Medaber. The Pasuk is talking about Dvarim, the Kapara of words. V'Chapara B'Yamamu, when is that? By day, that says B'Yamazeh Yechaper Aleichem. So all the different psukim proving us that all the different entities in the Mishnah have to be by day. And we can continue, it says the Gemara, Levidoi Meiser. Where do we know that Meiser is by day? That's one pasuk referring to the Vidoi. One says the confession when he says the Meiser v'samachlei hayoim hazeh Hashem l'keichem mitzvah. So what do we see? We see that it has to be by day. L'smicha l'shchita, leaning on the animal and shechting the animal. Where do we see that? The chsev, or about 8 lines to the bottom of the Amud, v'samach, you lean v'shachet and you shecht. Uksiv ba b'shchita by shchita. What does it say? Bayoim zivchachem, on the day that you shecht. And we're equating the smicha to the shchita. They both have to be by day. Ulit where do we see the waving? The day that you wave it. Like Gasha, bring the carbon. It's equated to the waving. It's minchas hakanais. They waved it. And they brought it. Where do we see the shechting the bird with the kain's fingernail? Ulikamitza, taking the flour, lakdara, bringing up the carbon, and sprinkling the blood. They commanded all these entities that the pasuk refers to, which is the Malika, the Kemitza, and the Aktara. And finally, we conclude Ashka Saita has to be by day, Asya Taira, Taira. Ksevachav Aslam Akayin is called Taira, Ekola Taira. Hazais, this whole Taira. Ksevaslam Alpia Taira, Sheruchav al Mishvat. And then the Gemara continues on tomorrow's daf of Chaval and Aleph, Ma Mishpat Bayoim, Afkan Bayoim. Just like we know that court cases have to be by day, as the Tabrashi speaks out, we learn it out from the Pasek, Bayoim, Bayoim, and Chalu Espanav. So too, says the Gemara, that the drinking of the Saita also has to be by day. That's the first part of the Mishnah. And tomorrow we'll conclude with all the different entities that as well have to be by day. And we'll pick it up from here in the next year. B'siyata Dishmaya.